Welcome back. We are ACI Course 5, Class 3, June 13, 2024. Let's gather our minds here as we usually do, please. Bring your attention to your breath until you hear from me again. Now bring to mind that being who for you is a manifestation of ultimate love, ultimate compassion, ultimate wisdom. See them there with you just by way of your thinking of them. They are gazing at you with their unconditional love for you, smiling at you with their holy great compassion, their wisdom radiating from them, that beautiful golden glow encompassing you in its light. And then we hear them say, bring to mind someone you know who's hurting in some way. Feel how much you would like to be able to help them. Recognize how the worldly ways we try to help fall short. How wonderful it will be when we can also help them in some deep and ultimate way, a way through which they will go on to stop their distress forever. We're learning how this is possible. And so I invite you to grow that wish into a longing. And that longing into an intention. Then turn your mind back to that precious holy being. We know that they know what we need to know, what we need to learn yet, what we need to do yet, to become one who can help this other in this deep and ultimate way. And so we ask them, please teach us that. And they're so happy that we've asked. Of course, they agree. Our gratitude arises. We want to offer them something exquisite. And so we think of the perfect world they are teaching us how to create. We imagine we can hold it in our hands. And we offer it to them, following it with our promise to practice what they teach us, using our refuge prayer. Here is the great earth, filled with fragrant incense and covered with a blanket of flowers. The great mountain, 4 lands, wearing the jewel of the sun and the moon. In my mind, I make them the paradise of a Buddha and offer it all to you. By this deed, may every living being experience the pure world. Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kam Niryatayami. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may we reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may we reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may all beings reach their total awakening for the benefit of every single other. And so again, listen to the source of all my good. The source of all my good is my kind Lama, my Lord. Bless me first to see that taking myself to them in the proper way is the very root of the path, and grant me then to serve and follow them with all my strength and reverence. Bless me first to realize that the excellent life of leisure I have found just this once is ever so hard to find and ever so valuable. Grant me then to wish and never stop to wish that I could take its essence night and day. My body and the life in it are as fleeting as the bubbles in the sea froth of a wave. Bless me first thus to recall the death that will destroy me soon, and help me find that sure knowledge that after I have died, the things that I have done, the white or black, and what these deeds will bring to me, follow always close behind, as certain as my shadow. Grant me then ever to be careful to stop the slightest wrong of the many wrongs we do, and try to carry out instead each and every good of the many that we may. Bless me to perceive all that's wrong with the seemingly good things of this life. I can never get enough of them. They cannot be trusted. They are the door to every pain I have. Grant me then to strive instead for the happiness of freedom. Grant that these pure thoughts may lead me to be watchful and to recall what I should be doing. Grant me to give the greatest care to make the vows of morality the essence of my practice. They are the root of the Buddha's teachings. I have slipped and fallen into the sea of this suffering life. Bless me to see that every living being, every one my own mother, has fallen into. Grant me then to practice the highest wish for enlightenment, to take upon myself the task of freeing them all. Bless me to see clearly that the wish itself is not enough. For if I am not well trained in the three moralities, I cannot become a Buddha. Grant me then a fierce resolve to master the vows for children of the victors. Grant that I may quickly gain the path where quietude and insight join together. One which quiets my mind from being distracted to wrong objects, the other which analyzes the perfect meaning in the correct way. Grant that once I have practiced well the paths shared and become a vessel that is worthy, I enter with perfect ease the way of the diamond, highest of all ways, holiest door to come inside for the fortunate and good. Bless me to know with genuine certainty that when I have entered thus, the cause that gives me both the attainments is keeping my pledges and vows most pure. Grant that I may always keep them, even at the cost of my life. Bless me next to realize the crucial points of both the stages, the essence of the secret ways. Grant me then to practice as the holy ones have spoken, putting all my effort in and never leaving off the practice of the 4 times, highest that there is. Bless me, grant me, that the spiritual guide who shows me this good road and all my true companions in this quest live long and fruitful lives. Bless and grant me that the rain of obstacles, things within me and outside me that could stop me now, stop and end forever. In all my lives, may I never live apart from my perfect lamas. May I bask in the glory of the Dharma. May I fulfill perfectly every good quality of every level and path, and reach then quickly the place where I become myself, the one who holds the diamond. So this class is called Gewa Dang Migewa, virtue and non-virtue. And so we kind of need to see how we get led into that. So in the opening lines of chapter 4, Lele Jikten, that's okay. Master Vasubandhu is saying, you want to know where all of that stuff that we talked about in chapter 1, 2, and 3 come from? And, you know, the commentary says, reading between the lines of the root text, Abhidharma Kosha, is that all of those things of the world, they don't come from the Big Bang. They don't come from the force. And they don't come from a creator being who would have the power like to create anything and everything. The qualities of those 3, being unchanging, being all powerful, but creating all powerful and all loving, but creating suffering. It's just inconsistent with the world as we know it. It doesn't really explain stuff. Are they useful beliefs for some people? Absolutely. And not to be disrespected. But once we have reached the place where we're saying, wait a minute, like the world they created is unacceptable. Where does that leave us? Okay, fine, right? You created this world, but there's gotta be another way here. And Lele Jikten, that's okay. Where'd all this stuff come from? Deeds. technically karma. What's karma? Movement of the mind and what it motivates. That's how we come up with deeds cause the multitude of worlds, because karma is movement of the mind and what it motivates, what we say and what we do. So what we think, do, and say is the cause of our world, samsaric and otherwise, which is why it will work. It will explain our suffering, and it will explain how we can end that suffering and how we're the only one who can do it for our personal experience. So what were those two reasons why those three, Big Bang, the force, and a creator God, couldn't be the real causes of our world? One of them was because if those things are unchanging as they were held to be, an unchanging thing can't affect anything else. So they either aren't the cause or they aren't unchanging. And if they're not unchanging, then something had to act on them to make them be the cause, which means they're not the original cause. The thing that made them be the cause is the original cause, but guess what? That had to have something act on it too. And then the argument against the creator being creating everything is that they would have created it all perfect all at once. And then there wouldn't be any sequentiality to it, but there is. So it just doesn't explain our situation, is why that one fails. So anyway, what is the cause of our world? Deeds, karma. What were those two main divisions of karma? So I'm really asking this question.
Durable and non-durable? Or
Kind of, but not exactly. Motivating, and motivated. What's motivating karma? Movement of the mind. So would qualify as nonverbal, but that doesn't give the right idea. Movement of the mind. Geshe says thought, but I find it confusing to call movement of the mind thought, because to me, thought means blah, 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 blah inside there, right? Words, stringing ideas together, coming to a story. Whereas movement of the mind is just and this movement of the mind from this to that, to this to that, that's still karma. That's still imprinting, and it's inspiring us to have a thought, then something we say and or do. So motivating karma is just this movement of the mind. It includes thought. We could qualify thought as conceptual thought and non-conceptual thought, but that doesn't make sense to me. Movement of the mind motivates us to say and do. Say and or do. Do and or say. You get it. So what we say and or do is called motivated karma. Now, as we get into understanding karma, we'll understand that sometimes when we're using the word karma, we're talking about what we're imprinting. And sometimes when you're using the word karma, we're talking about what's ripening. So what's being exprinted, right? Projected, perceived. we'll call it perceived from this school, level of school. They use the same word, karma, le, for whether it's the imprint or the ripening. So two basic types of karma, motivating karma, motivated karma. And then of the motivated karma, there's that which communicates and that which that's which is communicating and that which is non-communicating. And the communicating karma, the non-communicating karma had those 5 qualities, 5 characteristics. Remember, for interest of time, I'm just going to rattle them off because I have them in my notes. Otherwise, I couldn't do it, right? Don't get the wrong idea. That non-communicating karma is still with us, even during distraction. Even while our mind is stopped, it is virtue or not. It is continuing after. And lastly, it takes the great elements as its causes, meaning that it has some very subtle material quality to its existence. So park that in your head because you had to have it for your homework and your quiz, and it's going to be important later on at some point. I'm not exactly sure when, but nothing is superfluous in these classes. Okay, so we're on to class 3, and there is a lot of Tibetan in this class. Please forgive me. You don't need it for your homework. We're just planting seeds to make sure that we still have access. So although I'm tempted to not do it, I am not going to not do it. Get you as big as I can here. I'm sorry, I don't have everybody, but almost everybody. So this class is about Gewa Dangmi Gewa. Gewa means virtue, also called good deeds. Now, later on, by the time we get, I don't know, into 10, 11, 12 courses, we'll make a distinction between good deeds and virtue, about distinction between good karma and something called merit. But right now, Geshe-la was just using synonymously virtue and good deed. But now what he's meaning by good deed is a kindness. Right? We tend to hear good, bad, and we have this judgment, but then we'll see later. So Gewa means virtue, and mi Gewa, non-virtue. Mi negates it. Virtue and non-virtue is what this class is about. Geshe-la called it good deeds and bad deeds, to simplify things. So he first got us the definition of good deeds, bad deeds, and deeds that are neither, meaning neutral deeds, if there is such thing. And that definition is not in Abhidharma Kosha that I'm aware of. He went to a Sakya text for these definitions, and I don't know what text. He just said it from a Sakya text. But when we go word for word through a definition, it helps us to get a bigger understanding beyond just the English translation of the words, which I'll give you that as well. So here's the definition of Gewa, a good deed, a virtue. So it goes like this. Du re shikla namin yi du ongwa dewa nongwa dong dendu dunya le kyope nyangde topche gewa. There's the word gewa. Gewa is what we're talking about. In the Tibetan syntax, right? It's backwards. And I don't know where the backwards picks up with the forwards. I'm just going to start at the front and go through the words, and then I'll put it all together for you, right? So we're talking about the definition of good deed, a good deed. Du reshikla means in the short term. So if it starts out saying, well, in the short term, da-da-da-da, it's gonna also say, and in the long run, da-da-da-da-da-da. And we're gonna see that. So in the short run, namen yidu ongwa dewa nongwa. Namen is the word for when the pot of rice that you're cooking is done. It's the rice is fully cooked, meaning you have the result of cooking the rice. But here it's talking about the karmic ripening, right? Karma gets planted, it cooks, and then it's ripe, and it ripens into its result. So the Tibetans intentionally use this word, like what word would really describe how the karmic result happens? It's gotta cook and get finished. And then, boop, right, you can eat it. Namen. It means the ripened result. But hold that connotation of it had to cook. Some stuff had to happen to it for it to get there. Namen. In the short term, this ripened result of a gewa, a good deed, is yidu ongwa dewa. Yidu means desirable. Ongwa means attractive. They seem redundant. Desirable and attractive. Dewa means happiness. That seems triple redundant. But it means a good deed in the short term brings a result that's desirable, attractive, happy. We can roll that all together into pleasant, right? A pleasant result. But it's really bigger than just plain pleasant. It's desirable, attractive, and happy. Nongwa means to experience. So yidu ongwa dewa nyongwa means the ripening result in the short run is this experience that is a desirable, attractive, pleasant, happy, pleasant. In the short run, a good deed brings us a pleasant result, is what that's saying. And dendu, which means ultimately, dunya le kyope nyangde. Dunya, anybody know the word dunya?
Suffering.
Suffering, good, beautiful, suffering. In ultimately, dunya le kyope means protects us from suffering. Kyope is to protect. Le here is not karma, it's from. In the long run, like ultimately, that good deed protects us from suffering. Nyangde Topje. Anybody remember Nyangde from class 2? To blow out. Nirvana. Topje, Nyangde Topje means brings us to nirvana. So, Gewa, a good deed, is a deed that in the short run brings us a pleasant experience and ultimately stops our suffering by bringing us to nirvana. That's interesting. So does that mean then that just any old kindness qualifies as a gewa? Yes, some say yes, some say no. So you could say yes, any old kindness qualifies as a gewa, because if we do a kindness and we get a bad result, if that happens enough, we're going to start thinking there's something wrong here, right? I need to figure this out. This isn't working the way it's supposed to. So a kindness that brings a bad result will help us wake up. So in that way, any old kindness will eventually take us to nirvana. But more directly, a kindness done with a mistaken state of mind is a kindness that will bring us a pleasant result, but that pleasant result will wear out because we don't have the wisdom in our mind through which we are perpetuating the goodnesses that we do and receive the result from. So in that way, a kindness it's done still with an ignorant state of mind can only bring us in the short term pleasant result, which wears out, which technically is a suffering. Right? When good things wear out, that's suffering number 2. Leaves us wanting for more, leaves us disappointed. So if the deed that we did to bring the goodness that wears out is actually a suffering result, can we say the goodness that we did is a gewa? No, because it's not also bringing us to nirvana. There are 3 time periods in which namins from the planted karma can happen. We can plant a seed in this life in such a powerful way that it will cook and get ripe within this very lifetime. That's the basis of the diamond way. Otherwise, the seeds that we plant in this life are more likely going to ripen in our very next life or in any lifetime after that. Which means that the things we are experiencing now and now and now are things that are most likely from deeds that we planted, things that we did in either our immediately previous lifetime or any of our lifetimes before that. It is possible that some deed that we did in this lifetime was done with enough strength, power, and wisdom that it could be ripening as your current experience. But very likely, hey, if you are like me, and I don't know for sure, that experiences that we're having moment by moment in these lifetimes are coming from lifetimes before, either the immediate one or any time before. And it means what we're planting now and now and now and now are likely going to be ripening in our next lifetime or anyone after that, which means our deeds now and now and now and now and now are creating our future circumstances. Our deeds from before are creating our future circumstances of this life, and our deeds in this life are creating for future circumstances for next lives. And technically, to be Buddhist, our concern for our behavior in this life would be directed towards those future lives, much more so than directed towards this lifetime. This lifetime will reap benefits from the behavior change that we make, because we have similar seeds planted in past lives that we're working on. Those behaviors in this life are adding to those other seeds. And so we can see results that seem to be from what we did, last month. But if you were able to see which seed is it that's ripening, right? It's not the one we planted a month ago. It's the ones that the one we planted a month ago have added to, and they're the ones that are ripening. Minor detail, but the point is where our focus of looking for the result is, as a Buddhist on their spiritual path, our focus would be next life and after that. Okay. So in order for a kindness to qualify as a gewa, something that will bring us a pleasant result in the short term and ultimately help us reach nirvana, that the deed that we do needs to have a high level of consciousness about the selflessness of the subject, the object, and the interaction between. So that little bit of growing wisdom is included in the motivation for doing the deed, in what we see ourselves doing, and what kind of result we're intending to create by doing that deed. The more our awareness of the selflessness of the three spheres is in our mind as we're interacting throughout our day, the more powerfully those seeds are planted with less ignorance than before, and allows those seeds to grow into seeds that would qualify as being gewa. The purposefulness and high level of awareness of the empty nature of the three spheres is the piece that helps our deeds shift from plain old kindness to a kindness that will end suffering. When we jump schools and talk about bodhicitta, we've already done the class where with bodhicitta, even the teeniest little good deeds are the cause for your Buddhahood. Do you remember that? There were like 5 of them, 5 qualities or benefits of having bodhicitta in your mind as you're brushing your teeth, sweeping the porch, doing anything. Here you can see why, right? It's how we impose, even intellectually, our motivation for the highest thing for the greatest number of people because of our understanding of the no self nature of things. Okay, so Gewa. Mi Gewa means non-virtue, not virtue. And we get a definition again. I think I have the whole one here. Namen, there it is again, the ripening result. Yi du mi ongwa, mi dewa, nyongwa ni mi gewa. So look up here. Yi du was pleasant. I'm surprised that doesn't say me yi do, but it doesn't. Namen yi du mi ongwa. If ongwa is, what did I say it was, desirable, what do you figure mi ongwa is? Undesirable, not desirable. Yidu was attractive. Isn't that what I said? No, Yidu is desirable, ongwa is attractive. Yidu mi ongwa is meaning undesirable, unpleasant, unattractive. Something we don't want. A non-virtue gives a ripening result that's undesirable and mi dewa unpleasant. Nyongwa is an experience. Ni mi gewa. Here's the word, non-virtue. Non-virtue is that deed that ripens as an unpleasant experience. Short-term, long-term doesn't matter. When we get a negative experience, it's the ripening result of some non-virtue that we did before. When we get a pleasant experience that leaving us suffering, that's a ripening of a kindness that we did with the mistaken state of mind. When we get a pleasant result that leads us to nirvana, how are we going to know that? It was from a deed that we did with some amount of wisdom. So now, are you seeing that a deed's quality of being a virtue or a non-virtue is not based upon the deed. It's based upon the result we get from that deed. And there lies the conundrum, because the technical, what deed planted that seed that made that result is deeply hidden reality. We can't know the connection. By the time we get the result, we don't even know that we did the deed that was the cause. It's like lifetimes ago, let alone last lifetime, let alone when I was 10 years old, right? I don't remember. I don't connect the dot. So we're stuck needing to rely upon an authority. And in this tradition, it says, right, we need an authority. And so your job as the student is to prove to yourself the authoritativeness of the teaching and teacher that we're studying, not meaning me, not meaning Geshe Michael, but meaning the Buddha's teachings. so that we can reach that point where it's like, okay, right? I understand that I can believe, not just blind belief. Buddha said so, I'll do anything. That's nice, but those seeds can wear out. When we've proven to ourselves that this being, when they talk about karmic correlations that I cannot directly see, I can know that those are accurate guidelines for me to follow to get the result that those guidelines say that they will bring. When I've logically proven that to myself, I've made a valid perception of it, right? Valid perception of something makes that something exist. So it's worth the effort to again and again and again go through that argument. How do I know that the Buddha has become correct? Like course 4, it was so confusing, but it's a really important one to get that sequence clear in our thinking. Geshe-la's example here was, in our ordinary state of mind and within the societies within which we grow up, it is perfectly acceptable and expected that we will kill the cockroaches in our kitchen to get rid of them. And there's the cockroach. You pour poison down the sink and you don't see cockroaches for a while, sometimes. And so we say, see, the poison got rid of the cockroaches. In this society, we are expected to smack the mosquito because it carries disease, and if it bites somebody else, they could get hurt. And so I'm going to protect everybody else by smacking that mosquito before it bites me too. But if the instant we smashed that mosquito, our ribs got crushed, like we got smashed, how many mosquitoes would you smash before you learned not to smash one? Like, I hope none, because you'd watch somebody else smash, crash. Whoa, I am not going to do that. But there's that delay. And we really don't believe that the result of smashing the mosquito will be that someday we will be smashed. But who was watching when I smashed the mosquito? My video recorder, technically it was watching like this. And then when that series of, what do they call them? Frame films, right? Get cooked, get developed, and out they come. Guess what? I'm under the Mack truck as it falls over and smash. And, I'm not aware of that enough to go, whoa, I wish I hadn't smashed that mosquito. And neither does everybody else in my world go, whoa, she shouldn't have smashed that mosquito, because we don't connect that dot. But technically, cause effect. Karmic cause effect never fails. And it's a circular argument, because it's like, right, if you say that to have a result means you had to have a karmic cause, and you're experiencing results moment by moment, then of course you made karmic seeds. And it feels like that doesn't seem like a proof. But when you get in and like really dig into it and see how these teachings reveal that a deed is neither good nor bad until you get its result. How deeply profound that is, and how deeply frustrating it is, because it's like, yeah, but I can't see it. I can't prove it because the deed's already done long ago. Once we catch it, we'll realize that it's like, oh, okay, well, if I can't really know what's good and bad, except by what I experience, I very clearly know what's pleasant and what's unpleasant for me. And that alone gives us a lot of ammunition, sorry to use that term, but a lot to go on if all we did was choose our behaviors based on thinking, when this comes back to me, will I like it? Right? And in that way, the Buddha's teachings are empowering us to make our own decisions, to take responsibility for our behavior. It also means then that when anything unpleasant does happen to us, we can't blame anybody else but our own past deeds. And a lot of people don't like that. Right? A lot of us still want to blame somebody else. Thank you very much. So it takes some working with this to reach that place where it's like, oh, okay, I think I'm getting it. Right? Deeds aren't good and bad by their own side, except by way they're going to come back to me similarly. Right? And that's the clue. They will come back to me similarly. So Buddha does give us some guidelines. And in the literatures, it sounds like Buddha is saying, do this, don't do that. Take these vows, keep these vows. And if we misunderstood, it would sound like, because I'm Buddha and I say so, which he never said, right? He in fact said, you figure it out yourself, right? Check these teachings like you would check gold. Don't take my word for it. Test it all out. But there's some stuff that you aren't going to actually see directly until you're omniscient. And for that stuff, prove to yourself the value of following my instructions. And then do it if you want to stop perpetuating your own suffering, let alone anybody else's. So when we're talking good deeds, bad deeds, things I should do, things I shouldn't do, those words take on a whole new meaning, right? The good deeds I do are the deeds that will bring the result that will bring me and everybody else to nirvana. That's what we mean by good deeds. Things that I should take up and should give up are the things that will grow my ability to make the good deeds that will bring everyone to nirvana, and to give up those habitual selfishnesses through which I perpetuate suffering. So we could use the words, good, bad, should, shouldn't. But if we're talking to not so well-educated people, those terms are, loaded with judgment. You're saying, what's a good deed and what's a bad deed. Buddha says what we should do, what we shouldn't do. Come on, that's no different than, right, the religion I left. So just be careful with your words when you're talking outside the arena of a well-educated Buddhist here. And then even for your own mind, check and see, when you hear, the teacher or somebody say, well, you know what you should do, and you feel that, don't tell me what to do, right? It's because we're having this wrong connotation. Hopefully the teacher is going to be really sensitive to that and not say something like that. But our own minds do it to ourselves. You know what you should do, Shawnee? Like, don't tell me what to do, right? I do it to myself. Whereas when we understand what we really mean, this is what it takes. This is what it needs to stop doing in order to stop perpetuating all of this pain. It's all in this beautiful course about karma. All right. So a gewa in the short term brings us a pleasant experience, and in the long term brings us to nirvana. And a wrong deed, a negative deed, a not gewa, is a ripening result that's unpleasant, period. Within which are all three kinds of suffering: obvious suffering, suffering of change, pervasive suffering. So there's a third definition. The definition of Lelungmatan. It's here. Lelungmatan means karma, le. Lungmatan means not spoken by the Buddha literally, but it doesn't mean he didn't ever say anything about neutral karma, but it means not clarified, not designated, not specifically, not clarified by the Buddha. Karma not otherwise clarified. And what they mean by that is neutral karma. So Lelungmatan means neutral karma is Yidu Eng Miang Kepadini Le Shempe. Lelungmatan Dundam. Oh no, that's a different word. Leave that off. There we end here. I'm going to put a period. Think. All right. So Yidu we know is desirable. Eng is a word for result. We're going to see it in other words as well, but here the desirable result. Mi'eng would be undesirable result. Kepa is gives you, and dinyi means these two. So le shempe le lungmatan means neutral karma is any karma that, no, sorry, neutral karma is that which brings you something other than those two. So those two is Yidu Eng and Mi Eng, pleasant results and unpleasant results. A neutral karma is a karma that brings you a result other than pleasant or unpleasant. Well, what is pleasant, unpleasant? What's other than that? Just, they call it neutral. I don't really understand what they mean by neutral karma. Geshe said, when you're just zoned out, like a vegetable, you're making neutral karma, but I kind of disagree with that. But you get the idea, right? Not doing anything, just staring at the TV, not even paying attention, that kind of, again, I don't buy it. But here it is in the scriptures at the level of detailist school, who, if there's good karma and there's bad karma, there must be neutral karma. All right. If there's neutral karma, it ripens in some way other than those other two. All right. You got your homework. let's take a break. Recording. Okay. So now, gewa, virtuous deeds, meaning a deed that, once planted, ripens into, in the short term, a pleasant result, and in the long run, taking us to nirvana. That's what we're talking about here. There are 4 kinds. It's like 4 basic kinds of gewa, good deeds. Here's the Tibetan for the 4. Dundam gewa, no oniki gewa, sunden, and kunlong. So dundam gewa, dundam means ultimate. We've had it before. Ultimate bodhicitta, ultimate reality, dundam. Dundam gewa. So it means ultimate good deed. And remember in Abhidharma, which is the knowledge that takes us to the highest thing. What was the highest thing? Nirvana. So here as well, Dundam Gewa, the ultimate good deed, is referring to nirvana. It's not another name for nirvana. You don't hear them say Dundam Gewa in place of Nyangde. But the ultimate good deed is being in nirvana. And it's like a little weird because we think, oh, the ultimate good deed would be the deed that finally gets you to nirvana. But they say, no, that's not what this is talking about. Being in nirvana is the ultimate good deed. So they say, technically, it's a gewa nominally, in name only, which in this school is a little different than what we mean by nominally, which is seeds ripening only, which is true. But Dundam Gewa here means it's not the seed you plant to get to nirvana, it's being in nirvana. So it technically isn't a deed, it's a done, it's a ripening result. Okay. But it gets to fall within these 4 kinds of gewa. The second one is no niki gewa. No means nature. No niki means a good deed by its very nature. No niki gewa is a good deed by its very nature. Doesn't that make your middle way head go, what? Nothing has its own nature, right? It's like, that can't be. But we're not in high school right now. We are in the school where things that function have some nature of their own. They're not self-existent. Don't be silly about that. But they do have some nature of their own because they're functional things. Come on. So here's a gewa, a good deed, that is a functioning thing, something we do, plants the seed, going to come back as a good result that leads us to nirvana. And no niki means these deeds have in them something that makes them good. But in a moment, you're going to see that that thing in them that makes them good is actually an absence of something. So technically, it still fits with highest school. We'll see that later. So a deed that's virtuous by its very nature, there are 5 deeds that fit within this category of being a deed that's virtuous by its very nature. Du chak mepa, she dong mepa, timuk mepa, nota and trelyu. So these are divided into the first 3 and the second 2. Anybody recognize the words du chak she dong timuk? That's asking too much. Du chak means ignorant liking. Du chak mepa means no ignorant liking, non-ignorant liking, meaning when we are in the experience of that pleasant bowl of ice cream, apparently pleasant bowl of ice cream, and our understanding of the selflessness of me, the selflessness of the ice cream, and the selflessness of the pleasure I expect to get from eating that ice cream, that state of mind will make me not have ignorant desire for the ice cream and will probably propel me to share that ice cream with somebody else. If nobody's there, I offer it. Even if anybody's there, I offer it first. But look for somebody to share it with, because I know where it came from in the first place and I want to perpetuate it. So say there's 20 people in your living room and you've got this one bowl of ice cream. Your awareness of these 3 selflessnesses are so strong that there isn't an instant of, that's my bowl of ice cream, I should take the first bite, or at least I should get the last bite, but you just hand it, right? And by the time it goes around the 25 people, there's not even a bowl to lick anymore, and you don't get any. And this Duchak Mepa state of mind is like, great, right? 25 people got a bite of ice cream. And there's no and I didn't get any, because Duchak Mepa is there. The absence of Duchak makes a pleasant experience a gewa. Takes a lot of thinking. Why is it even a pleasant experience then if I don't even get to bite it? Because it's so pleasant to see everybody else enjoying it, I would guess. So Shedong is ignorant disliking. Shedong Mepa is no ignorant disliking, but because we are so clear on the selflessness of me, the selflessness of that unpleasant, I don't know, what would be the example? Cockroach scurrying around my kitchen counter and I've got company coming. And my interaction between, which is so many, oh, I want to smash the thing, or oh, I got to get rid of it before my company comes, because what will they think of me, right? All the different things that be going in your mind. You've got your mother-in-law coming and you've got cockroaches on your counter. So if you have this Sedong Mepa, understanding the emptiness of this situation, there would be no ignorant disliking. There would be no inclination whatsoever to harm that cockroach to protect your reputation. No, maybe you're gonna lovingly catch it, right? Maybe you'll put it in a little cage and show it to your mother-in-law. Look at my new friend Henry, right? I don't know what you'll do with it, but it will not occur to you to smash it or hurt it. So now our experience of the cockroach, which would have been unpleasant, is Shedang Mepa, a virtue. Because instead of cockroach, it's like, oh, cockroach. Can I make you happy? What would you like? A piece of cheese? I don't know. Timuk Mepa. If Duchak is ignorant liking, not, and Shedang is ignorant disliking, not, what do you think Timuk Mepa is? Ignorance, not. So ignorance, not, is no self nature to anything. If we have ignorance not in our mind, you can't have Shedang or Duchak, so you automatically are going to have ignorant liking not in your mind and ignorant disliking not in your mind, because you've got the not ignorant in your mind, which technically we don't get there as a direct experience until we actually reach nirvana. And after direct perception of emptiness, we don't quite have Duchak Mepa, Shedang Mepa, Timuk Mepa, but we have Duchak don't believe it. I don't know how to say that. Shedang don't believe it. Timuk don't believe it. So our deeds are getting a little closer to Gewa as Arya. So these first three are called three roots of virtue. We'll learn about roots of virtue later. There's more than three, but these are three main ones. They're actually mental functions, things going on in our awareness as we're interacting with pleasant things, unpleasant things, and things in like all things. To interact with things with these three states of mind makes our interaction a gewa, a good deed that will bring us a pleasant result and eventually to nirvana. You can see how it would. Even when we're imposing the ignorant liking not, it's like, yes, there's ignorant liking for that ice cream right now, but I'm going to override it because I'm going to think empty me, empty that. I want more ice cream. Phew, here, somebody eat this ice cream for me. Because we want more ice cream. Same with cockroach. All right. Then the last two of these five good deeds that are good by their very nature is these two states of mind. They're called the two thoughts of virtue, Notsa and Charalya. We'll talk about these two states of mind a lot in the course of our ACI. They get more and more subtle, more and more deep. Notsa, the word is translated to English as shame, which doesn't seem like a pleasant state of mind, right? We're talking about gewa, right? A good deed by its very nature. So to have this state of mind of shame, they're saying it's a good deed. And I don't know about you, but my heart's going, no, there must be something I'm misunderstanding.
I'm
Because
sorry, what is share?
shame.
Shame. Okay, sorry.
Sorry, I'm going too fast, aren't I? Shame. But let me describe what notza means. And then I think we'll see that Shem isn't quite right. Notza means that when you are choosing an action to do, when you're about to make a karma, do a deed, if you are in a situation where the deed that you're going to do, nobody but you will ever know about it. Notza is this state of mind that says, I am not going to let myself do an unkindness or a, whatever, because I hold myself in too high a self-esteem. It would be below me to smash that cockroach, even if nobody ever knew about it, right? My sense of self-esteem, the conscientiousness, self-conscientiousness, I hold myself to a higher degree. And if nobody knows, that's what's meant by notza. See how shame doesn't quite fit for me? Because this is a really powerful, positive state of mind. Trelya is this same sense of considering the impact of what I'm about to do. Only in Trelya, this is about making our behavior choice based on some kind of consideration for the impact it will have on others, right? If somebody else sees me do this, right, that I'm going to choose my behavior based on if somebody else sees me do this. So at the first level, it's like, suppose, you're an aspiring Buddhist and you're in a group of other Buddhists who you perceive as being higher along the aspiring chain than you are. And you're about to smack that cockroach, right? And you go, oh, no, I'm not going to do it because, they're going to think badly of me, right? It's still I'm concerned that they'll not like me as much, right? But it stops my bad behavior, my behavior that would come back to hurt me. Then later, this sense of trelya, it's not so much avoid doing a harmful deed because of what they will think of me. It's more about what the impact it will have on them to see me do that, right? Which is different. It's like, I don't care so much if they like me more or like me less from not smashing the cockroach, but I'm not going to smash it to set this good example for others. And, you do it the first time and you get razzed for it. And then the second time the situation comes up, somebody points out, like I'm in this exercise group and there is a bug walking across the room and everybody else is, doing the exercise. And I just stopped and I grabbed the bug and I threw it out. And the leader, of course, teased me about it. But then a couple of weeks later, there's another bug walking across the floor and the leader of the group goes, "So Ronnie, there's a bug." And I went and I got it and I threw it out. Everybody else would have just, smashed the bug. So it crosses our mind. Even if nobody else knew, I would have picked up that bug. Or what if, because nobody else would know, it's easier just to smash the darn thing, right? Wrong notza. Okay, that's not having notza. Is nobody else is going to know, so I can get away with it. Trelya is, without trail you, it's like, I don't care what anybody else thinks, or, I'm going to kill the bug. These two states of mind are positive states of mind, positive influencers on our choices of behavior. And technically, we have them in our minds already to some extent. They are in the category of good deeds by nature, because these two states of mind are what, even ignorantly, keep us from just doing any old thing that we want to do, right? As ignorant beings, our animal brain says, protect yourself at all cost. And so our natural reactions to things is grab what we want, destroy what we don't want. And that's our automatic, right? Driven by past seeds. And the extent to which we don't behave like that, which we don't mostly, is because we already have some level of personal self-esteem through which we choose what we will do and not do, and concern about our impact on others. That is included in how we choose our behavior. So now we're wanting our notsa and trelya to be informed with our understanding of emptiness of the situations, and be informed with our understanding of behavior plant seeds that will ripen as similar, bigger results. And so now I have better guidelines for the decisions I make through my two states of mind of shame, self-esteem, and consideration for others. Got it? 5 good deeds by nature. It's not the nature of the deed, it's the state of mind with which we're doing the deed that makes the deed have the nature of goodness. Do you see? So these 4 kinds of gewa, good deeds: dundam gewa, being in nirvana; no niki gewa, doing our deeds under the influence of these states of mind; sungden, where is it? Sungden means by association. Here we are here. Virtue by association. As we are interacting with other, subject object interaction between happening, we're focusing, we have a narrow focus of what's going on, but at the same time, the mental function is going on. There are other mental functions happening as well. We're not going to talk about all of them, but the other non-dominant mental functions get colored by the virtue or not of the main mental function that's going on. So when our main mental function is a virtue, all these others are virtuous as well by way of this association. It's called a mental link, or by association. So the example they give is if you suppose mental functions are clear, and then your particularly good, virtuous mental function that you're acting on is blue, then all the otherwise clear mental functions that are riding along with it, they also become blue. Like if the floor of the swimming pool is painted blue, the clear water that goes into it all looks bluer, right, than water usually does because of the blue walls of the swimming pool. So same idea of our main mental function colors all the others. So here we're saying that if we have this category of good deeds, if we do a good deed, then all these other mental functions become good deeds by nature also. So the other mental functions have to do with, awareness of form, feeling, discriminating between things, like our intelligence, our awareness, like all this other stuff that's going on. The same is true in terms of this association with negative states of mind. So like when we're having a big anger or jealousy outbreak, that's coloring all the other mental functions that are going on at the same time, which means we're perceiving the whole situation colored through the jealousy, colored through the anger, just like we're seeing it all colored through the goodness when we have a positive state of mind. It's actually affecting our ability to assess what's going on around us, which then affects how we react again, right? Because we react and react and react and react. It's not like we react once and then everything settles down for a while. It's constant, okay? By association. And then the fourth kind of virtue is kunlong. Kunlong, here it is. It means virtuous by motivation. So virtuous by motivation can only apply, excuse me, to verbal and physical karma, which seems funny. It seems like you have a motivation for certain thoughts as well, but somehow that's a different thing. I'm going to guess that's in the Sinden category. So virtuous by motivation means that the deed of speech or physical action that we do become virtuous by way of the motivation with which we do them. So there's a story to illustrate this. There's this poor guy, like literally poor. He owns the cloth robe around his waist, and he owns his pair of sandals, and that's all he's got. And he's walking in the rain down this muddy road, and he comes by a Buddha statue by the side of the road, and it's getting rained on, and he goes, "Oh, this is terrible. I need to protect the statue of Buddha." So he takes his sandals off, his precious sandals, and he turns them upside down. He puts them on the Buddha's head to protect the Buddha from the rain. And he goes on. And the story says, that's a really, really great goodness. So later, rain's gone, everything's dried up. Another guy comes walking along, a devout Buddhist, and he sees this Buddha statue with two dirty sandals on its head. And he goes, "What jerk would put dirty sandals on the head of a Buddha? I've got to take those off." And he takes the sandals off, and he throws them away. Also makes huge virtue. Opposite deed, same motivation. Buddha, getting rained on. Buddha, dirty sandals on your head. Fix it. So motivation. Motivation is really a key player as we're growing our wisdom. Typical in these teachings is before we try to grow a new motivation, train yourself to recognize your habitual mistaken motivation. Find it first. And then have a chat with yourself. Like this old motivation, is it really serving me? It's going to say, yes, I do. I look after you, right? You are the most important thing to me. You can rely on me. I've taken care of you for eons, right? Yes, you can rely on me. I am the habit of taking care of yourself first, right? Grab what you want, what you need, push away what you don't. I will help you do it. And you keep chatting with that habitual you, explaining karma and emptiness, explaining this class until that part of you goes, maybe there's a different way. Okay. And when you have that opening, that's when we can start trying to apply these new motivations. I'm brushing my teeth because, right, you're supposed to, because they feel better, because I don't want to get cavities. I'm brushing my teeth in order to reach Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. Do you remember that lecture that we had? It's like, what does brushing my teeth have to do with reaching Buddhahood? Everything and nothing. It's the state of mind with which we do anything. Can we be so imbued with bodhicitta that tying your shoes is a cause for your Buddhahood? This is Kunlong. Motivation, a high motivation influences the deed that we do. Now, does that mean I can have really, really high motivation and smash that cockroach? You know, it makes a good debate. There's that story about Buddha in a previous life as the Bodhisattva ship captain, you know, and there's the guy, he reads the guy's mind, and he intends to kill the 500 other passengers for the goods. And the ship captain kills the guy before he can kill all the others. And when we first hear the story, we think, wow, how noble, he saved the lives of 500 other guys. But then the punchline is, that's not why he did it. He killed the guy to protect the guy from killing 500 other guys. And he was willing to take the karmic hit of killing somebody, motivated to protect them. That ship captain guy, he does end up dying. He goes to hell as a result. But they say he bounces out, in and out, like from that trampoline, because his motivation was so good. So yes, motivation, you know, colors the seed, but it doesn't completely negate us hurting somebody. But it's going to change how the result comes back to us. Maybe we get hurt by somebody with a high motivation. I don't know, is that a good deed or a bad deed? So we want all of this karmic stuff to be black and white. And it's not black and white. So the more we think about it, the more we learn about it, the wiser our choice making can be. And that's the point of all of these classes. Yikers, I'm running out of time and I'm not going to finish class without going really fast. Flavia, can you talk faster?
Yes, I can.
Okay. So there's an analogy. The analogy is nirvana is like a healthy body. Good deeds by very nature is like a medicinal herb which has the power to cure. Virtue by association, sunden, is like the liquid in which we mix the herb. The liquid takes on the power. And then virtue by motivation is like the mother whose milk is beneficial because she's the one who's been taking the medicinal herb, right? So motivation is like once removed, but still powerfully effective. Non-virtue is the opposite. Samsara is like a sick body, the result of a poisonous herb mixed in liquid, taken by the mother, whose milk then becomes not beneficial or even harmful. That'll be in your reading. So now, Buddha teaches that we have 84,000 negative deeds that we do that perpetuate samsara. If he wrote about all 84,000, they say that would be a really long book. You know, like the canon is not a really long book, but it would be that much longer. So Buddha boiled all 84,000 wrong deeds down to the main 10. They're called the 10 non-virtues. These are 10 behaviors that we are doing in some way, shape, or form almost constantly, through which we perpetuate this broken, suffering world that we live in. The practice then becomes recognizing when we're doing them, being able to clean out the seeds from when we did them before, clean out the seeds from when we do them now, plan out the opposite, and train ourselves to apply the opposite whenever we can. You know, maybe not within the actual situation, but somewhere else, in order to grow these new habits. So the 10 non-virtues are an important piece of the encyclopedia that you want in your mind. And then next class, we go into the karmic correlations to those 10, the karmic results of those 10. So here's the 10. I'm just going to say them fast. Sokchu, Majinlen, Lokyen, 3 of body, Zunma, Trama, Siksub, Sikyal, 4 of speech, Nubsen, Nusum, and Lokta, 3 of mind. So these are called the 3 gateways. The gateway of mind, the gateway of speech, the gateway of body. And in these 10 virtues, there are 3 negative deeds that we do habitually that perpetuate our suffering physical world. 4 of speech, through which we perpetuate the sound part, amongst other, of our suffering world. And then 3 through which we perpetuate the mental experience of our world. So most of us know these already. Killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, sokchu, killing. And here the scriptures say specifically to take the life of any being is what we're talking about in the 10 non-virtues. We don't actually take vows to say, I will never kill anything ever, because that's impossible as a human. So we don't actually take vows against these 10 non-virtues until way, way later. But we make this concerted effort to avoid anything that would kill or contribute to killing, even get close to harming something that we perceive as a living creature. It includes taking one's own life. And in this tradition, they say life begins at conception. So by extension, it would mean killing a fetus would also come back to us as our life being shortened, right? Which is what it means to be a non-virtue. It comes back to us as an unpleasant experience. Nothing about killing in and of itself that's a bad deed. What's bad about it is we kill somebody, we're going to get killed, which means our opportunity for whatever is going on gets cut short. Majinleng means stealing, literally taking what has not been offered, taking that which has not been given. And, obvious stealing, I hope none of us do. But there are subtleties. We're all supposed to fiddle with the figures when we apply our taxes so that we can get the benefit. And it's like, right, but like if you're fiddling to the extent to avoid paying taxes, that's a kind of stealing. And to what extent are we willing to fiddle with our tax numbers, thinking we're going to get the benefit of paying a little bit less tax, when the result that we get is somebody steals from us? Somebody fiddles with what they owe us and they don't pay it right. So, I'm not being critical. Society says, get your numbers right. Don't be generous with your taxes. What, are you crazy? But when we understand better, it's like, no. I know I don't have to claim that, but I'm gonna. And our tax lady goes, why? Because, right? I don't want to be stolen from. And she goes, right? So, there are little ways that in our society, yeah, it's fine, you put the pen in your pocket from work and then you go home. And then you dump the pen on your desk, and now the office's pen is in your house and nobody thinks any differently. But if the supervisor at work has not said to you, you know what, if from time to time you end up taking a pen or some paper clips home, that's just fine. If they've not said that, we planted seeds for taking something not given. Like all of these ubiquitous things in our samsaric world that are okay are perpetuating our lives where we can't find the things we need. Right? We lose stuff. We can't get that visa when we want it. I mean, little things that it's like, no, I didn't do anything to cause that. Well, we had to. We made it up. Not taking what's not been given. Taking what's not been given is the non-virtue. Lo Qian means sexual misconduct. Mainly, they mean here adultery. Having intercourse with another person who is not freely available. Or if you are not freely available. So if you or the other are in a committed relationship, then you and the other are off base. If we want to create a world that has pure relationships that are reliable, are functional, not just partnership relationships in terms of man, woman, but any kind of partnership. You know, did you ever play on a sports team? And maybe you played on a team where everybody really got along. And then the next year, you're playing with the same team, but a couple of new players, and they don't show up for practice. They, you know, sometimes they play great, sometimes they play terrible. And it's like, what's the matter with you people? Right. And we wouldn't go, man, that's sexual misconduct. Who would figure that one out? Because we're in a partnership and it's not working out because I interfered with somebody's partnership. In the reading, it goes into these details about other aspects of sexual misconduct that influence the way our world will be in the future. And some of that, you know, again, if you need to, just put it on the shelf for now. The Geshe-la reminds us that these 10 non-virtues are being offered to us by an omniscient being who knows directly what we need to give up and take up in order to stop perpetuating our suffering world, us, our own suffering, and the suffering of others. And that's where these come from, based on the suffering result they're going to bring us from the seeds that we do by doing these deeds, right? If we keep that in mind, they're easier to work with when we're understanding that they're not just, doctrine. They are clues for our own liberation. All right. Thou, we have 4 of speech. 1, 2, 3. Zunma, Tramma, Siksub, and Sikya. Zunma means lying. Lying means literally giving a false impression. That's from obvious, gross to very subtle. It's ourselves, hearing ourselves tell somebody something that we know is not true, not quite true, even exaggerated for whatever reason, right? It's our own awareness of our motivation and the words that we use and our intended impact on that other person. So Geshe-la's example was, in our society, if someone says, you know, the husband says, you didn't stop and get groceries like I asked you to. And instead of just saying, yeah, I didn't because I was too tired and I didn't want to, I say, yeah, I got delayed at work. You know? And he goes, oh, okay. You know, and gets over it. It seems like I tell this little white lie cover up and I get a good result. Right? He doesn't get mad at me. This has never happened. David does not get mad at me, but suppose. And then some other place, I use the same excuse. Oh, I got tied up at the office. And that person goes, well, I don't care what happened at the office. You said you were going to stop for groceries and you didn't do it. And I was relying upon you. And now I can't ever rely upon you again. And it's just like, get out. I used the same excuse. It worked once, it didn't work the other time. What happened? Yeah. The result of lying is that in the future, we won't be believed. No, I really did get delayed at the office. Doesn't matter. They're still not going to believe me because, you know, not from the weeks before lie, but from previous lies. When we lie, the result is we get lied to and we get not believed, amongst other things. Buddha wants us to be believed. Why? Because someday we're going to teach. And we need the karma for others to believe what we say. It's not like when you're teaching the Dharma, you just spurt out everything that's true, because there's no such thing. It's up to what you hear. And it's up to my karma to make it such that I'm believed by people. You see, it's about the result. Line. Next one. Harsh speech. Harsh speech. Swearing. Calling people names. I'm sorry, I'm ahead of myself. Onto Zinma. Trauma is divisive speech. Divisive speech means speaking to split people apart. You're talking to somebody about the boss, and you're wanting them to agree with you about those bad qualities of the boss. And so you're saying they did this, they did that, they did that. And you're hoping that the other person will go, oh, yeah, that's a rotten boss. And in doing so, the other person ends up thinking less highly of the boss than they did before, because of my wanting some kind of camaraderie in my blaming misery, divisiveness. It doesn't matter whether or not what I'm saying about the boss is true to experience or not. It's this, does my speech make the other person like that person less? Speaking to split people up. You know, sometimes grossly we do it. Obviously, yes, I want to split people up. I'm going to say bad things about them. But, you know, for most kind-hearted humans, you try not to do that. But inadvertently, we do, as we're telling our stories. And so it's something to be careful of. And then as we see the result of divisive speech and how it shows up in our life, we can look to see, it's like, oh my gosh, I get that result all the time. I never realized it was from divisive speech. Let me see where I'm being divisive and I don't even know it. Okay, divisive. Number 6 is harsh words. So harsh words is swearing, calling people names, sarcasm. There was the question, you know, outright criticism, even using nice words, but in a way to hurt somebody's feelings. No, harsh speech, you know, loud. We're talking speech here, so you have to be saying something, but it applies to the result of harsh speech is loud music, loud cars, screaming children, no offense, jam, right? Unpleasant sounds, all the way to the buzzing inside my head, right? From harsh speech, because it's harsh, it's unpleasant inside there. Harsh. Then meaningless. Number 7 is meaningless. Meaningless speech. Useless talk, small talk, gossip, you know, movies, TV, politics, Geshe Michael would say. But more so, saying our prayers and thinking about everything else. I'm really good at that. Saying one thing and thinking about something else, especially with prayers, is considered useless speech. And we end up with useless sounds. Again, the buzzing inside my head, useless noise in there. Background traffic noise, right? Useless. From useless speech. Now, there's a caveat here. There are times when we need to make small talk. We need to be pleasant and sociable. And we can do so with a high level of motivation of, you know, the minute I'm out of here, I'm shutting up, or I'm making small talk in order to fit in so that someday I can teach these people the Dharma, or, some shift in motivation that allows you to be in your, family making small talk or job situation where you have to fit in and still influence it in such a way that you're not ending up with a bunch of useless talk karma that makes our practice harder. I have 3 more. It'll probably take me 6 more minutes. You want to stay? I have a whole lot of minutes booked in the bank. Can I use them now? Okay, good. Thank you. We get to the 3 mental deeds. Nubsen, Nusum, and Lokta. The words nubsem is coveting. It means coveting. That's a weird word. People don't say, I covet my neighbor's car. It's just an old-fashioned word. But it's the one that's used. It means to desire the things that others have. So in a sense, it's related to jealousy. Jealousy means I'm upset because they're getting something I want. Or I'm upset because they're getting something I don't think they should have. Right? There are all these subtleties. Literally coveting means I want what they have, which is sort of silly, oh, I don't want their house. I don't want their, but when we see a co-student getting more time with the Lama, I definitely want that. And there's some part of my mind that thinks I got to get them away from the Lama in order for me to get more time with the Lama. And that's where the state of mind of coveting or jealousy interferes with our healthy choice of behavior, right? We either go right at removing them from the Lama, or we subtly, right, get in the way, interfere, cause trouble. It happens. And then we think, yeah, it's just life. That's what you do. When somebody's getting what you want, they're in my way. It's a combination of ignorant liking and ignorant disliking. It grows in subtlety to being this sense of unhappy when you see anyone getting some amount of happiness. Right? I mean, that's nowhere close to coveting. And it's not really even jealousy. It's just this icky feeling inside that we can't see somebody getting something good and go, wow, so cool. Our rejoicing practice has helped that a lot, to where we're recognizing, wow, yay, wow, yay. But if you remember back before you started and you saw somebody cuter, smarter, happier, more successful, there's this cute inside our heart. It's from this nabsam, coveting. Nusum is ill will. Ill will literally means wishing something bad would happen to somebody. That's like the grossest level of this non-virtue. Somebody you don't like, you wish something awful would happen to them. I hope none of us have ever had that. But then the subtleties are, well, there are people I don't like. And when bad stuff happens to them, a little part of me goes, see, I was right. You deserve that. It never comes out, but it's inside there. And that's ill will. It goes all the way to bad stuff's happening to that person I don't like. And, I'm sorry, but I'm not about to go help them because, I don't like them. I don't trust them. Yeah, still ill will. When you flip it around to the opposite of ill will. It's like the willingness to rush to the help of someone in need, whether you like them or not, whether you're afraid of them or not, right? No matter, just because you see somebody in need, your heart goes out to them. That's the opposite of ill will. Then the last one is lokta, which means wrong view, which is the classic wrong view that makes it the 10 non-virtue in the 10 non-virtue list, is not understanding how our deeds now will bring us a result later. That our deeds now create the circumstances of our future. Technically, lokta means not believing in karma, but those words are too superficial. It's not knowing that our actions will bring consequences, and especially that our actions bring consequences, but not the ones that come immediately after the action, which we're seeing in this study of karma. We think we put the key in the car, turn it, and the car starts, and we think turning the key starts the car, but it didn't. Because sometimes you turn the key and the car doesn't start. So it cannot be the cause. So lokta is this insistence that the morality level of my behavior is inconsequential. That's the wrong view. And it has a lot of ramifications out of that. And if we see ourselves as a human being in a suffering world, we are doing these 10 non-virtues. We have done them, and we are doing them to some extent. And that's harsh reality. Because, we're kind people, we're good people. But these 10 are still happening in some way, shape, or form. And our honesty would be, I'm going to go look for them and see where I'm doing them in subtle ways or gross ways, and just track it. And we have to know what we're doing mistaken before we can fix the mistake. Okay. That's class. You can do your homework. The homework's going to ask for the 10 non-virtues, and either the homework or the quiz or the meditation, I'm not sure which one, says, and what would be the 10 virtues? So flip them around, make the positive out of it, and see what you can come up with, what the 10 virtues would be, and we'll talk about that next time too. So remember that person you wanted to be able to help. We learned lots. Oh, Cecilia's here. We learned lots that we will use sooner or later to help them in that deep and ultimate way. And that's an extraordinary goodness. So please be happy with yourself. And think of this goodness like a beautiful glowing gemstone that you can hold in your hands. Recall your own precious holy guide. See how happy they are with you. Feel your gratitude to them, your reliance upon them. Ask them to please stay close. Ask them to continue to guide you and inspire you and help you. And then offer them this gemstone of goodness. See them accept it and bless it. And they carry it with them right back into your heart. See them there, feel them there. Their love, their compassion, their wisdom within you. It feels so good, we want to keep it forever. And so we know to share it by the power of the goodness that we've just done. May all beings complete the collection of merit and wisdom, and thus gain the two ultimate bodies that merit and wisdom make. So use those 3 long exhales to share this goodness with that one person. To share it with everyone you love. The 3rd, to share it with every existing being everywhere. See them all filled with an understanding of karma and emptiness, and so filled with loving kindness. And may it be so. Okay, thank you everyone for the opportunity.